Welcome back to Inside Saluki Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Kelly Burke, and now I am joined by junior captain Kylie Gabelhausen. Kylie, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you, and you are going to be on your way to class here shortly, but you're playing your best basketball of the season right now. You tied a career high 26 points against Indiana State. How do you feel like you and the rest of the team right now are really coming together these last 2 weeks of the regular season?
I would say with this past weekend especially, the chemistry has kind of picked up through all the freshmen, rotating with all the seniors, the different lineups we got to put in with Loyola with the big win there. And with Indiana, we had a lot of different substitutions, and I think we did well playing off of each other rather than, sometimes it throws people off or we don't execute as well with people we aren't used to playing as many minutes with, and I think we did a good job of that.
You always seem to play really well against Wichita State. I think this season you've averaged over 21 points a game against them. And the first meeting, you tied a school record 7 3-pointers in a game against them. What is it about the Shockers that brings out the best in you? And hopefully we will see it again this Friday.
Well, some of them like to trash talk the whole game. So I don't think people realize this, but in high school, the only team that did that to me too, I went off with all my points too, so it's kind of more of a motivator than something that gets me down. So as much as I think that's to their advantage, it's to my advantage. So, maybe they'll keep doing it this weekend, but I think I've proven myself against that team both times this year. So we'll see what happens when it comes Friday.
So in other words, we need to get Coach Stein or one of your teammates to trash talk you probably before every game here in the tournament?
I guess so.
Oh, okay. Well, you're an exercise science major. You want to go into physical therapy after you graduate, and I know you are job shadowing a lot this semester. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, both last semester and this semester, I've kind of picked up the hours. As much as I don't want to mention Bradley, that's the school I'm trying to get into for physical therapy because that's home. But out of all schools, they require 100 shadowing hours. So I've been trying to find time within my schedule, which is a struggle. But, I shadowed for 50 hours last semester, and then this semester I'm out at Heron Hospital for their outpatient program. And it's actually really interesting and rewarding. And I think the outpatient program I'm at now has been the most interesting. Like yesterday and I think the first week I was there, one of the patients is, I can't give too much information, but one of them is this little girl, and she's 4 years old and paralyzed from the waist down. And so she's in a wheelchair, but she has such a bright personality and is hilarious and has been talking about her new dog and all this stuff. And I wasn't even with the physical therapist working with her yesterday, but I was staring across the room at her therapy the whole time because it was so entertaining and fascinating, but like how well they work together with her, especially since that outpatient program is their patients are, usually over 50 years old from what I've seen. And so it's very rewarding and entertaining to see that kind of therapy, especially with her and how well she's responded to it. So I think definitely I'm in the right career choice for me.
That's good to hear. Well, we have several audience questions for you, so let's get to some of them. What are you going to miss the most about the 3 seniors?
Oh, man. I'll probably say, each of their personalities, but being able to joke around with them. Like, Kim is kind of, you can fool her into anything, and she's really funny. I don't know if anybody has a Twitter and has seen what I tweeted the other day when we had a tornado warning here. I told her she could go in the bathtub for safety, and she told me she can't swim. And I said, you don't put water in the tub when you get in there. But and then Carly's has my similar type of humor. She's very sarcastic, and I think we think alike. And, we can look at each other during practice if somebody does something, and we just start laughing because we each know what we're thinking, and it's funny, but we're not going to say it out loud. And then Rashonda, it's very witty humor, And she also, she can fool Kim a lot too, and that's really funny to laugh off of. So
Let's go to another audience question. Actually, we have some very similar ones. Everybody wants to know about your mom. She brings these post-game treats that she's infamous for. What is your favorite?
I don't know. I don't like sweets that much, so I'd say the cupcakes, but I wipe all the icing off of it, or the brownies, but I only eat half the container when she brings me my own. So I feel like I'm wasting some of it, but I would probably say that. My favorite snack she brings me would be Flamin' Hot Cheetos, which she did last weekend, and I know that's not sweets, but salty snacks are the way to go.
So we'll see what she has in store this weekend. Real quick, I found a funny quote that you wrote on Twitter. You talked about you have the appetite of a lineman, yet the metabolism of a marathon runner. And so what does a typical day look like eating for you?
Oh, man. Well, I just bought groceries the other day, and they're like 2 days ago, and they're all gone. And my mom brought me this bag of food from Friday's or Thursday's game, and it had Cheetos in it and like Mamba's candy, and it had Oreos, a Crunch bar, raspberry, blackberries, grapes, and I gave the Oreos away, and everything else was gone by Saturday's game. So, and that's in addition to with all the actual meals we ate with the team. So I eat quite a lot, and it's not always the best type of food either. I like chips and soda, as you can see. So yeah, that's my diet.
So in other words, the coaches probably need to budget more for you on road trips when you guys go out to eat.
Yeah, I guess I should mention this too. Carly also makes fun of me because I'll show up with McDonald's 15 minutes before practice and eat it before we go out there to practice for 2 hours. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And I don't know if you know this yet, but you were just named NBC Scholar Athlete second team today. So congratulations on that. Quite the honor. We'll be back with head coach Cindy Stein for our final segment. This is Inside Saluki Women's Basketball from Learfield. Thank you.
Thanks. You didn't show them all your food in your bag. I just ate it.
From the Cook Club at SIU, welcome to Inside Saluki Women's Basketball, our final show of the season. Alongside the head coach, Cindy Stein, I'm your host, Kelly Burke. Thanks to all of you who joined us here today for lunch when we recorded this program, and hello to all of you listening on 105.1 VCA. Coach, good to see you.
Well, hello.
You know, you guys appear to be playing your best basketball of the season here heading into the MVC tournament. You've won 4 games in a row. What's been key during the past 2-week stretch?
Well, I think the biggest key's just been the fact that we've just battled. Things haven't always gone right, but our team, you know, there was times earlier in the year that we would hang our heads and get depressed about our play, where now you just see them battling through all that, really picking each other up when they need to, different kids stepping up and making really good plays. I think everybody knows that Kylie and Rashonda have kind of been our steadies, but then, you know, then we're getting a lot of other people stepping up and making great plays, whether, you know, it's Carly knocking down some threes, to Lauren Hartman looking to score more, Nicole Martin running the floor. You could just give a lot of examples of different players making the plays we need at a specific time.
Well, speaking of Rashonda, we have several audience questions here today, so I want to get to all of them. The first one is, with the loss of Rashonda, what is your, quote, wish list to replace her, and how might it affect or change your offensive game plan next year?
Well, I think that we basically are running the things that we'd like to run. So we always kind of tweak our set plays to personnel. So obviously, you know, it's been a lot of point guard heavy, obviously, coming off ball screens. But, you know, Livy Bowling and Brittany Patrick obviously are capable of doing some of those same things. They probably just got to get a little bit more consistent in their play, and I think they will. I think it's hard for kids to play behind, you know, a all-conference kid and not get a little discouraged. But obviously we're going to need them in this tournament because Rashonda can't play all those minutes. But you know, as far as replacing her, you know, it might be by committee. You got to see what happens. I know that we're going to probably spend some time with Chris Nelson, getting her comfortable with the point guard position as well. We've got a young lady coming in from Edwardsville High School that's probably a better off guard, but she could also fill in at times there if we really needed her. We do feel like we have some pieces of the puzzle, and then we've always got you know, our eye out for any kind of impact player at the junior college level that could come in immediately and play. We always have that available to us if, you know, we find that, but we have yet to do that.
You know, when we had talked last month, your guys' defense was still a concern for you. But last Thursday, you held Indiana State to 17 first-half points, which is a low since you have been here. What specifically about the defense has improved?
Well, almost everything. That we're actually playing defense is probably the key. I would not say our defense is where it needs to be. We cannot relax at all on that. But when we play aggressive, I think that, you know, we're just better. And that's the biggest thing. I keep talking about energy and being aggressive, and I think that's just a huge part of defense as well. But, you know, just defense is also a little instinctive. You know, some kids are going to have to switch in a very quick play that happens, and you've got to be able to switch quickly and get to where you need to be, and we're getting so much better at reading those things and being a little bit more instinctive.
You know, let's go back to Senior Day. We had that about a week and a half ago. What has Rashonda Napier, Kim Nebo, and Carly Corrigan meant to this program and meant to you?
Well, I think they've meant everything. You have 3 outstanding young ladies, and you know, we can't brag enough about the things they bring to the table, because with especially Carly and Rashonda, who've been captains, and Carly's been a captain, I think, all 4 years, haven't you? I'm trying to think. It feels like 4 years, but you know, she's just been such an outstanding leader. Even as a freshman, she was stepping up and helping kids out and just extending her leadership skills. And that's just been, you can't talk enough about that kind of stuff because that's so unselfish. And then, you know, you've seen Kim Nebo just get better and better, really understanding her role, doing whatever it could. And then she had to step into a role of, a scorer and rebounder, where before it was kind of supplemental to whatever Diana Pierre did. So she's just been outstanding this year, and really, a lot of kids can sit around and complain when that was happening, and she didn't. She just kept working harder. And then Rashonda's Miss Personality. Just a really great leader, such a terrific skill set, always working to get better. And she's very hard on herself, too. So I don't, everyone will say, they think I baby Rashonda. Well, I don't have to say too much, because if she has 2 turnovers in a row, she's already beaten herself up. So I'm just trying to get her from, stepping back off the ledge and get focused on the next thing.
And Rashonda, I might add, brought nearly the entire state of California to senior day.
Yeah, she did, and her dad was recruiting more people too. So it was just like the whole stands was coming down to support it. But that's what you want, that was a really special moment. I'm glad we could do it after the game, because I just think we do such a better job of really embracing and those kids being able to enjoy our fans, our community, and their family, versus doing it before, because you kind of sweep that under the rug real quick and play the game. So it was a good night.
Also worth noting, Rashonda and Kim were named MVC first team scholar athlete today, so you had 3 players that made the first and second team to lead the league. Well, let's go to another audience question. Who among the non-seniors is emerging as the best team leader or leaders?
I think that's a tough question, in the fact that, I feel like Kylie's becoming more verbal, and obviously spends a lot of time out there on the court helping a lot of kids. But I think they all do different things at different times. Ashley Hummel, Tiajane Hawkins, Livy Bowling. They've all stepped up and really been vocal on how we want things done. And that's what I like out of this group, is that it's just, you're not relying on one kid. I think everybody's being accountable and taking that responsibility of the entire team and what's happening within that team as part of their responsibility to make sure they help get it fixed.
Well, a special thanks to Withers Radio this season for all of their support of Saluki women's basketball and our broadcasts. Coming up next, we visit with SIU junior and team captain Kylie Gabelhausen. You're listening to Inside Saluki women's basketball from Learfield. Am I confusing everybody yet with the intros and outros? I think I'm confusing myself at times. Welcome back to Inside Saluki Women's Basketball with head coach Cindy Stein. I'm your host, Kelly Burke. Coach, you will be the 4 seed heading into Hoops in the Heartland and the MVC Women's Tournament, and we'll be taking on 5 seed Wichita State this Friday in the quarterfinals at 2:30. How do you approach the Valley Tournament? Is it the same approach that you use game to game in the season? And also, how difficult is it to beat a team 3 times?
Well, I think that it's only difficult to beat a team 3 times if your kids aren't ready to give their best. And I think that's, if they take it lightly. But I know my team, they're not going to do that. They understand they've got to work hard. That's what makes us good, is when we do work really hard and we work in sync. But I think the biggest thing for getting kids ready for the tournament is that, you don't want to change too much. I know we've revised a couple things, but it's nothing big, because you still want them to play very instinctively. You're basically just going over kind of the same stuff. You want to make sure that your fundamentals are really good, that, you're still up and down the floor. No one's getting lazy and fat. And, you've got to head into a tournament like this. You got to be fearless, obvious. Honestly, your kids have to play with no fear. And they always say tournament time is as a guard's, time, because your guard play has to be really, really good. But I go back to our post game's really good too, then, it's even better. So, and that's what wins championship, is that when all the units are working well together.
Let's go to another audience question. This one says, how has the shift from 2 halves to 4 quarters affected how you manage not only timeouts, but substitutions, et cetera?
Well, I think that, it's just one of those things that you kind of have to get used to with your team. I know that there's times that you get to the end of a quarter, you want to get some of the kids out to give them a rest and use that in between the quarter timeout to kind of give them even added rest. It just kind of depends on our flow of the game, honestly, as far as we're concerned. And I think the biggest effect it's had on us is the timeout, because we lost a timeout. So you got to be really smart with the timeouts. You used to be able to blow at least one timeout, diving after loose balls and trying to get a timeout. And now, even then, when your kids look at you like, should we call the timeout? Sometimes you only have one. I know Indiana State game, we got in a little bit of a pickle because of that. We didn't have any timeouts the last 2 minutes of the game, and I never want to be in that situation, but it was what we had to do at the time. So I think the timeout thing's probably the biggest.
Carly Corrigan recently found out she is going to be a grad assistant next year at Memphis. And you are very familiar with Memphis head coach Melissa McFerrin. You guys go way back, I believe, to your Central Michigan days. How were you a part of that process, and what type of coach do you think Carly will be?
I think Carly's going to be a great coach if she wants to be. I know it's, she wants to be an academic advisor, more or less. And I think that, what we try to do is we have friends at a lot of different places, and I know she was looking at a bunch of different places and just trying to, say, hey, this is a great kid, you need to have it. And that's what everybody does is, it's who you know. And people want a comfort level and want to know that they have a responsible young lady that's going to be really sharp. She's had great experience here, and I think that's really helped her. And she's got a great reputation. So I know that, we put a good word in for her. I know our former AD here, Mario Mocha, put a good word in for her. And I think, between the two of us, I think that we could help her get a job.
Let's go to our final audience question. How have the 2017 recruits done in their high school senior seasons?
Well, they've done pretty well. I know our 2 young ladies from Edwardsville, they lost in the state championship, but did really well. I know Mackenzie Sylvie was all-tournament. She was all-state first team. Abby Brockmeyer, a young lady from Litchfield, was first team all-state. Rachel Podlowski for Fort Zumwalt North. They lost in, I think, sectionals, but had a really good year. All of them are over 1,000 points. They've all have tons of accolades, and I think they're really looking forward to being Salukis.
You're listening to Inside Saluki Women's Basketball. Kelly Burke alongside the head coach Cindy Stein. Coach, with ESPN3, from a coach's perspective, it was implemented last year, but where do you see the biggest benefits from your perspective with this agreement with the Valley, especially with recruiting?
Well, I think everyone can watch your games. I mean, heck, I even have my 80-year-old mother watching ESPN3 and figuring out how to get it on the computer. So I think that's been fun. From a coach's aspect, I've enjoyed it. Probably not from the side everybody thinks, but more on getting the clips that you need to send to the officials. Because you get a lot better view of exactly what exactly happened. So that's what I like. It's like, you think certain calls should have been this way, and it just gives us more either, wow, I was way off, or, yeah, they did screw that up. So I know we like that from that aspect.
I don't think I was expecting you to say that as the answer. Well, I do want to take a second to thank you, Coach Stein, and thank all your assistants and your staff, Director of Basketball Ops, Julie Beck, who was always getting me the player I needed for this show, and Will Beck, who is in charge of the media aspect of your program. So thanks to all of you for all your support this season. The Salukis are the 4 seed this Friday, and will take on 5 seed Wichita State in the quarterfinals of the Valley Tournament, starting at 2:30 p.m. Bryce Williams will be on the call on 105.1 VZA, and I'll be on the TV side on the Valley on ESPN3. And as I mentioned, this is our final show of the season, so we thank you all for listening all year, and to those of you who have joined us here in person for the luncheons at the Cook Club. Hope to see you in Moline this Friday. Until then, for head coach Cindy Stein, I'm Kelly Burke. This has been Inside Saluki Women's Basketball from Learfield.